So hello, everyone. My name is Joan Devine, and I'm the Director of Education with Pioneer Network. I'd like to welcome you to today's Sharing the Vision webinar, Recharge with a Nature Fix. Just a few logistics before we get started. All webinar attendees, except for the presenters, are muted to minimize the possibility of background noise. But that said, we absolutely want to hear from you. And so we encourage you to use the chat. Please be sure to mark everyone with who you're sharing with so that we all get to see what it is that we're sharing with each other. And at the end of the webinar, you will get a link to the webinar recording along with a certificate of attendance. This will come out approximately 24 hours after the webinar ends. And really, that's about all the logistics I have for today. So now I'd like to welcome our speaker, Tammy Marshall, a wonderful friend to Pioneer Network and just a wealth of knowledge. You're going to love what she has to share with you this next hour. So welcome, Tammy.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you, everyone at Pioneer Network, Penny and the team. I appreciate it. And then everyone who took the time out today to participate. I believe there's probably no greater message right now than hearing and listening to things to help take care of yourself and the residents. And so some of those things you're going to hear today. And always when you're listening, I hope you're listening for yourself and for the people that you care for, because the message applies in any setting. But my passion and heart is for long-term care, skilled senior living, memory care, all those types of environments. So what is recharging and how do we do it? So my company I started called Biophilia Pharma, kind of really in the midst of the heavy outbreaks of COVID, realizing that it had been months and months and months since residents were even able to see the light of day in some cases where the communities had no real lighting, outdoor lighting, or perhaps dining rooms were very small and not well lit, and the list goes on. And as time went, people will inside, I just dug in my heels to what I knew true, what to be true about nature and its healing abilities. So left my company, sold out and left and started what I call Biophilia Pharma. And the entire mission there is to bring natural approaches to people that we care for and ourselves. Part of Biophilia is a product we call Recharge, and we help people, organizations, especially those in long-term care, redesign their interior with nature so that you can have both the experience of being in nature inside as well as outside. And I will share, the research is very clear that being outside around the trees, the smell of the terpenes, the ions that come from the earth, very, very good for you, instantly having a biomarker effect on you, meaning you will have lower blood pressure, lower heart rate, decreased cortisol, better mood. That stuff happens instantly outside. But there is clear evidence that bringing nature inside has very similar effects. So that is really the whole point of today, my background. So you know, I'm a master's prepared nurse. I've been in our field for over 30 years, and I'm wild about everything to do with holistic care for residents and the team. So one, I think Charlene, commented about bushwhacking and primitive behaviors as part of her fun things to do. And this slide shares a little bit about where we came from and why that what we would call primitive behaviors or bushwhacking behaviors is almost natural to us if we foster it. If you go back to when it all started, hunter-gathering, it was exactly what Charlene said. We're bushwhacking, we're gathering, you eat what you kill and you go on to your next day. And your whole life is really designed around preparing and feeding your family and hunting and preparing. And that was your day. It wasn't a 9 to 5. You didn't clock in and out. You really spent your time keeping your home safe and feeding your family. And that was life. And then we get into the agrarian culture. It's very much that whole hunter-gatherer farm gets larger. The picture gets bigger. We get what we would call stick-built housing, farming equipment. We have many, many animals that we stick together. And if you remember, I don't know the ages of anyone's on the phone, but I certainly remember my grandparents' gardens were miles, it felt like, long, because I had to pull the weeds. So, I mean, going out there, they were miles and miles long, but that was their way of still carrying on hunter-gatherer. It was very, very common in our neighborhood to have a garden. It was uncommon not to. And then Industrial Revolution happens, hospitals go up, nursing homes start to go up. The whole industrial post-war period happens. And a lot of boom, a lot of great things come out of that. And you can see in the middle between industrial and tech, there is what we would start to become known as our period of time, which long-term care came about with OBRA acts and Medicare and Medicaid. And I'm going to fast forward now to what we're really in. And it became super clear with COVID. We are in the boom tech age. And why I think that's awesome. A lot of good things come out of technology, but anything in abundance can harm you. We know from the cell phone data about kids and learning. We know about multitasking and the interruptions from cell phone, about how it's destroying relationships. And I can go on, but not here to bash tech in any way, or I use tech, I love technology, but I am pro for the balance of what is technology and what is natural through nature. So that's kind of the timeline and how we landed here at this whole notion of who and why do we care about rewilding and recharging the environments we work in and live in. We care because if we stay in just the tech phase, we will become, we would be at risk for losing relationships and the continual erosion of our communication skills. And nobody wants that. So what is rewilding? Rewilding is really thinking about any environment you're in and bringing more nature in. And it's also thinking about how often you can be outside. So it's a whole movement. I didn't come up with this word, but people are recognizing the deprivation of nature. When COVID happened, the number for how much time residents spent inside was already 93% of their day over a course of a year was inside. I'm going to say that again. 93% of their time was spent inside. That was pre-COVID. And so if you're not able to get outside, you have what they call sensory anesthesia. You are not exposed to the wind on your face, the sun, the warmth of that. You're not exposed to feeling the imbalances of the earth, hearing the sound of birds. All of those things that you were very used to pre-working or living in a long-term care setting were taken away. And then add on COVID and the number only goes up. So part of rewilding is to bring those experiences inside so that we put an end to sensory anesthesia. And long-term care, why long-term care? No other group in history has spent 93% of their time. I don't want to make the equation, people sometimes do, but let's just say people who were in other settings that are institutional, including our own school systems, have taken away the outdoor time. The only group that is mandated law to get outside are people who live in what we would call restricted settings, such as prisons and group homes and so forth. There is a mandate they must get outside. We don't have that in long-term care. Okay, here's the other reason why we want to rewild. We know the benefits of rewilding. There's a plethora of research around the benefits of bringing indoors into work environments in terms of retention and the workforce. So another huge reason why I'm passionate about this right now and will continue to be putting this on every screen that I can or anyone who will listen is, McKnight's interviewed hundreds of operators, still continues to be the number one concern of operators, and that's across all long-term care settings. So that's skilled, home care, senior living, housing, AL, memory care, all of those environments. Operators still share that not having enough staff is their word. It's not a favorite word of mine, but they continue to report they do not have enough. And so that if you've been on any webinar recently or participated in any conferences, as well as in your own setting that you might work in, that top answer, the number one thing that they need help with right now is workforce, whether that's retention or just the culture on the inside of the community. And then you can see the other things as you go down the list. So that's the why. So I shared the what. The what is rewilding to help us recharge ourselves. And we use that with nature. That's the what. The why I shared because we need to be able to balance tech with nature to have a full experience of life and prevent sensory anesthesia for yourselves and for the residents. A little bit of the why and more why here. So if I asked you, if I could help you reduce your cortisol level every day, elevate your white blood cell count, which is your immunity. Right now, everyone wants a better immune system. If I said you could do that, improve your attention span, be more creative, improve your short-term memory, reduce your risk of nearsightedness, and increase your longevity, would anyone say no to that? You can chat with me. I'm reading the chat box, so I love your comments. Would anyone say no to that, right? It's almost silly and crazy to think that we don't actually turn toward, this is, to be a joke, but that we don't turn toward nature to help be a partner in our healing and our well-being. So nature is what they call the green pill. A lot of books are written about vitamin N, it's called. There's lots of different titles for it. But Biophilia, Nature, and You was written by Sally Coulthard. And I have her book here. And it's a beautiful book to look at, but it's also full of the research that I'm going to share with you. And this book here will find a home to one of you who's on the call. I have a question later that I'll be asking, and whoever answers it closest will take this book. I will be shipping it to you. I'll work with Joan to make sure you have it. And a lot of what you'll see today is in there, but you'll have it so that you can go page by page. She literally takes you through each room in the house and helps create a more nature experience. Again, why do we want to do this? Why do we want to have more nature in and around our lived experience? Is just look at that screen for 1 second and see what it does for you. And it's almost unconscionable that we don't do it for ourselves and our residents. So benefits to the organization, I have to put this in here. It's huge. Bill Browning, he's an author of several books, but this is one of my favorite books that he wrote. It's called Nature Inside. He wrote it with Catherine O'Ryan. They are probably considered, I know Bill is considered really one of the forefathers in the biophilic design. Biophilia, I should have said this earlier, bio means life, philia is nature, and it's love for nature. So our love for nature and the connection we have with nature is really what the whole body of biophilic design is about. Architects knew about it. They've been putting plants and things forever because they know these things happen. So what happens in the workforce that's been studied over and over? Less absenteeism. So that's more money in the community's pocket. Increased creativity. So you're going to, some of these will repeat because different books focus on different levels of research. Increased productivity. So those second two, Google, Facebook, Twitter, and really the folks in Silicon Valley, when they built their organizations, they knew about biophilic design and the research and the connectivity with nature and productivity and creativity. So they didn't do it because of all the health benefits. They knew that people would work longer, smarter, and harder if they put plants, natural lighting, sound, and earth-like elements, so wood floors around them. It just happens because we're hardwired to communicate with nature. So Silicon Valley has been doing it for years. It's time that we participate in that. Increase retention. The other one I really like that is a benefit of rewilding your life and the resident's life is that it causes what they call pro-social behavior. So pro-social behavior means, like, in the most stressful periods that we're in right now, giving your time to just one other person can feel exhausting. For many, you're caring all day, you're caring for people. And one more person comes by that needs something, and you're just like, I have nothing left. And so being in a more natural, holistic, rewild environment, biophilic environment, it brings about a sense that you're part of something bigger. If you see the trees, you smell nature, you hear nature sounds, inside of your brain, you're not thinking this happens intuitively. You sense and know you're part of something bigger, and that causes you to be more social. They call it, in the research, they call it pro-social behavior. So all of us who work in communities and have families and, literally might use the words, I feel spent. I've been hearing people say that. Being in and around nature helps you feel more pro-social so that you don't go into a little ball and hide from the stress that's being created right now in this world. I'm trying to keep it positive and keep it real, because I don't want to say that this, this is not a cure-all for everything. What it is a very simple, almost no cost way to feel better almost every day if you can get out in nature. Decrease anxiety, decrease cortisol, and an increased sense of safety. And we could all use a little more sense of safety. So adding more research to the why. So so I said, I'd love for some of you to start adding nature into your lives to feel better, both for yourself and for the residents. And there's a book written by Florence Williams, and she's a hardcore researcher and spent several years designing the amounts of time people can spend in nature, recommended amounts of times, so they get the maximum benefit to their. To me, we know that from the research, if I am staring at a screen like I am right now, but if I turn my head for almost 40 seconds, or at least 40 seconds or more is the research. If I turn my head for 46 seconds or more away from my screen, and I look at a picture of nature or outside a window in nature, I have what's called a soft fascination response in my body. Soft fascination response gives you all these things that I just mentioned. So if you're hardcore looking at your screen all day, it literally only takes 40 seconds to turn these biomarkers on by moving your head away from your screen. I'm just going to turn this back, Joan. Turning your head away from your screen, looking out your window or at a scene in nature. 40 seconds. And you start the cascade of goodness in your body. So if you wear any kind of wearables, the phone, I don't know what you might use as a trigger, but if you're at a screen all day, or if you find yourself in an environment where you're going, and don't look at nature or are able to see images of nature, give yourself a little way to get a nudge to say, I need that 40-second biomarker hit, right? I need my nature fix. I need that green pill, because the second you do that, again, only 40 seconds, and the cascade starts to happen. Now, if you want to get more dosing, and she literally calls it dosing, daily, just outside in the daylight, fresh air, walk the dog, doesn't matter, 30 minutes per day, and your whole cascade of longevity genes turn on. So, I'm not here to promote longevity. I'm anti-ageism. So it's a balance between live forever and clean up the way we treat older adults. It's a balance. So when I talk about longevity, my message is that by having a lifestyle that includes nature, by default, the evidence is it is highly likely you will have a longer period of life. The longevity will increase by doing this. It's just very clear. It's well studied. And if you go to other countries where nature is part of the everyday life, you can see in Japan, all of the blue zone areas that are well studied from National Geographic, all of those groups of people, the long-lived people, they call them in the blue zones, spend enormous amount of time in and around nature and in community with others. So you can just walk up. So 30 minutes a day, 2 hours a week, 1 weekend a month, and the list goes on. And this, again, is Florence Williams with what she would call dosing for longevity. If you're on this call and have any contact with or find yourself to be an engagement guru leading all the engagement programs within your community, I would encourage you to print this out and make it part of your engagement program if you could. I'm sure that all of you do your own kind of ways to bring nature in. But if we go back to the original stat, 93% of residents pre-COVID were indoors. This is another way to think about engagement. So rewilding and long-term care on a mission, I've said a few things here that talk about so right now the whole recharge movement came about through Mount Sinai. Like I said, Silicon Valley was doing it long before Google, Twitter, Facebook. Mount Sinai is a major healthcare system, hospital system in New York City. And during COVID, they recognized that their doctors and nurses were collapsing from just the work that was before them. And some of you on this call might have experienced it also. Absolute collapse from just being overworked. So they did exactly what people do when there's nowhere to turn. They turn to Mother Nature for help. And they partnered with a group called Studio Elsewhere and started to do what I'm going to share with you now, which is how to rewild long-term care. They rewild their hospital, and I'll show you a little video on how they did that. But I'm asking everyone on this call to think of ways that you can introduce and bring nature inside your community and for yourselves, and 100% to get outside. And I'm going to be heavy on the workforce piece here because that is the direction that our company is going with recharging long-term care. So you might have seen this before. You know, if you've been in culture change, we say all the time, all behavior has meaning. All behavior has meaning. And this photo here just breaks my heart because I've interviewed over the last year, I don't know, gazillions, I'll say, CEOs, executive directors, and hundreds of certified nurse aides in home care. And, each person has their own story. And I believe all people have a perspective. And I've heard things like, I'm so proud of my people, Tammy. They don't take breaks. There's so much work to be done because we're short. They can't afford the time to take breaks. And as much as I understand that, it is a cycle that we are in, and I have seen it myself, that we can get out of. We can get out of this by first thinking about how you have to care for both, right? In culture change, we know it's to best care for the resident, we have to care for the team. And so finding people sleeping in rooms is not uncommon. If you work in a long-term care, it just happens. And instead of going to, somebody was found sleeping on the night shift, they're going to get written up. Go back to what the Pioneer Network and culture change has always said. All behavior has meaning. All behavior has meaning. So find it, the compassion place to say, why is this happening? Is there anything we can do as an employer to support well-being? I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying, if we think about it from all behavior has meaning, a compassionate place, we can look about how to care for people differently. So for me, looking at this and then doing interviews to prepare for not only this, but for creating the product called Recharge, People are sharing they're exhausted. There is no place to recover. And I'll talk a little bit about that. Finding team members sleeping is not uncommon. Some call sleeping on the job a choice, but I ask you, is it really a choice? Is it, I mean, in theory, I would suppose yes, but I've known many night shift nurses who are talking along, but are so exhausted, they just stop mid-sentence and are sleeping because they're exhausted. And they didn't turn on the I want to go to sleep choice. They just fell asleep. If you've ever been that tired, you can find that compassion. And then how are we caring for those who are caring for older adults in this country, which is our workforce? So I want to say, I don't know who's on the call, but I want to really relay the message that not taking a break is, and being in nature or creating space for yourself is not a badge of honor. That creating home for residents in many environments took away a setting for the certified nurse aides and other people to take a break. And I'm all for the home-like environment. I wouldn't, I've been doing it for 30 years. But in the previous slide, we talk about technology and nature and the balance. Creating home for residents in many ways took out the break room and the rest area for the team. And so we're experiencing that now as I interview people say, we don't have anywhere to go. It's a home-like environment. So we have no place to go recharge. So we have to think about that also. And it helps as we think about nature and how to be in and around nature, taking care of us. The nursing profession and the certified nurse aides are including in this has been the most trusted profession for over 18 years. When the Gallup polls, most trusted profession. And so how do we help take care of the team? And it's not just nurses, social workers, the engagement folks, buildings and ground, dietary, you name it, a front office administration. It doesn't matter where your hat is on. We have to think about how to take care of each other. So here's some leadership in action for you. You might know these two women. It's a little blurry on my screen. I hope it's not on yours. These two are taking recharge seriously. So what we're doing with Carol Silver Elliott, CEO of Jewish Home and Family out of New Jersey, and Lori Manti, Executive Director at Kendall Unifica, we are going to go into a project with them in partnership with IN2L and go into their environments and recreate their break rooms and some of their resident cafe areas into a biophilic experience using what they already have. So we're not going out to spend gazillions of dollars. We are using what they have to create a more nature-like experience in their environments, and we will study that. But I want to give a hats off to the first two women in long-term care who are intentionally going to implement biophilic design and create recharge rooms in their homes for their teams. It's a big, big kudos to these ladies because they don't have to do it. So what does a recharge room look like if we were to create a little more space in the place where you work? I'm not sure what your break rooms look like, but here are some images of break rooms that are used to create a more relaxing, restorative experience. I'm not sure if anyone's ever participated in a recharge room. In the chat room, I'm not sure if anyone's ever thought about doing that. If you've ever been in a recharge room, let me know. You could also have been in something like this. I'm going to play this video for you so you understand a little bit more about what Mount Sinai did. This that they're showing here, that machine is not anything to do with biophilia. It just happens to be a flat surface that this guy could lay on and hear nature and see nature to help relax him. All right, this should be quick. I think it's 3 minutes.
Mount Sinai Hospital is turning to technology to help frontline workers de-stress. The hospital worked with the company Studio Elsewhere to design and build this recharge room. Sights and sounds of natural settings are helping healthcare workers take a minute to relax and unwind.
fire is a very nostalgic thing, and it brings me back to a time that was carefree and life was easy, so just to have a moment like that, I think it was like really nice.
What we're seeing is that in 15 minutes of being in the space, people are reporting 70 to 80% reductions in their perceived level of stress, which is huge.
The rooms are voice activated, which helps avoid spreading infections.
So that was just a very quick
Mount Sinai Hospital is turning
way to show you the whole kind of theory behind and a little bit about what it looks like. Here are some things, and I think Charlene commented that your hospital that you work with is starting to have recharge rooms. Some people think recharge rooms are like a little bit similar to spa rooms for the residents. While they are similar in that they bring about a relaxed state, spa-like environments. Remember when we went through in culture change and made all the bathrooms spa-like bathrooms the best we could? So it's a little bit along those lines, although this movement toward creating recharge spaces for residents and teams through nature is backed by, I would say go back to E.O. Wilson, backed by over 45 years of evidence. And it's mounting now because it's so needed. So Mount Sinai's project, they're obviously they researched it, they published their articles and they're doing it in their hospitals. And so you can do it anywhere. And I just want to keep reminding people that it doesn't have to cost a ton of money. Kudos to Joan. Just look at her screen right there. She's giving us a biophilic experience with her trees and the soft colors just by looking at her. So there's so many ways that we can bring nature inside. So in a typical recharge area, whether you have an office of your own, whether you have break rooms around you, or in your own home. And remember, this again is even the book that I'm going to give away. You can, and the experience of feeling like you're in nature in your own home. So very clear evidence that sound, especially bird song, can improve your memory, decrease your cortisol, decrease your heart rate, increase your sense of pro-social behavior. Each of these sound very similar because they've been studied over and over again, but specifically bird song has the #1 impact on your sense of safety. And here's why. If we go back to one of the chat comments, again, I'm going to call that the bushwhacker primitive skills from Charlene when she commented in the chat box. Here's what we know about that slide I showed you, hunter-gatherers. The reason why humans love birdsong, and other animals actually love birdsong, is because the bird sings when it's happy and it's not in danger. So when we were hunter-gatherers in our primitive period, and we still have that hardwired in our body today, we would go out and do the hunting and the gathering. And we would use our environment as a way to gauge our safety. One thing that we used as humans was listening to the birds. So if the birds were singing while we were hunting, gathering, washing the dishes, tending to the children, you had a sense of calm over you. But the primitive folks and hunter-gatherer times knew that when birds stopped singing, danger was afoot. So that is in our blood. It's wired in us. It's a skill that we have that if we don't use it, for those of you who love to go camping and be in the woods, your body knows this already because somewhere in the cellular makeup of our primitive times, if a bird stops singing, it's time to pay attention. Something is around that wasn't there before. It doesn't mean that it could be a squirrel even. It could be a bear. It could be a dog. But when the bird stops singing, just pay attention. Like if you hear all the chirping and then it stops, just notice what you see in your environment. They're communicating with you. And so humans naturally love a happy bird song because we're wired to believe when the bird is singing, we are safe. That's why you quite often see bird cages in high trauma areas. So people in trauma-informed care know very clearly how soothing the birds can be to people who've had severe trauma. So a lot of trauma-informed care and birdsong. So I'm not going to spend forever on that, but birdsong is one way that you can bring it into your own home through a machine or real birds or the residents. Images, plants, and projection on the screen of nature, which is what you saw in the recharge rooms created at Mount Sinai. They projected scenes of nature on the wall. You went into the room, relaxed for a period. But you also noticed in those rooms, they had plants, either real plants or pictures of plants. They also had very different lighting than a typical break room that has overhead lighting. They calmed the tone of the lights down. They had mood lighting. It was not a real candle, but they went for mood lighting. Oftentimes you'll have essential oils, sounds, sense of nature. Water features, we are ingrained and love water. It's a human, again, one of our primal instincts. If we are near water, we know that we could live longer. It goes way back to that slide I showed you. In these rooms, you're not going to get the typical table and chairs that you see in traditional break rooms. You will see more comfortable chairs, perhaps a recliner, the couches, the sofas. They are solely designed for comfort, to bring you a more relaxed state. They use colors to help you believe that you're in and around nature. Some people wear face masks and eye buds just to take out the extra sensory so that they just get the sounds and the smells of nature. You can do that too. There are many, many ways that you can help bring about all of those natural benefits we talked about to yourself immediately today. You can get off this call, or you can turn away from the screen if you're watching it now and look at something else that's more pleasing in nature for 40 seconds. And now you will know that you're taking care of yourself in a very unique way. And you can do it almost any time. If you're in a car and in traffic or any point at which you can softly gaze at nature, you will be helping yourself. If you're out in the country road and you crack your window and you hear the birds, you will be helping yourself. It's not by accident that those little boxes you buy that have nature sounds and nature songs and water that we plug in, sometimes put them in the residence room. It's not by accident that almost every doctor's office in America and dentist office has those chirping bird boxes. And in some offices now, if you lay on the gurneys or the tables getting exams, the picture that you see over your head is often now a scene of nature in the big hospitals, Cleveland Clinic, Mount Sinai, holistic hospitals. You'll see that they understand the therapeutic effect of nature. Major cardiologists now are using nature smells and sounds during the cardiac procedure to improve immunity, which we went all the way back to that first slide, improves immunity. So the cardiac numbers are better. Post-surgical numbers are better. And it, remember, brings about a sense of safety. So the people go into surgery calmer. I mean, they're all doing it. We should be doing it too. And I want every single person in long-term care that is working in long-term care and with residents to spend a few minutes thinking about how they can bring about more nature into their world and to the lives of the residents. Is there anyone, like, as you're listening to this, anybody in their mind popped in an idea that they've had that they could implement either for themselves or for residents? Anything pop in your mind? I'm going to pause for a second because it's a lot of information and we're coming on a few minutes left. Can't see everyone, but anything that's popped into your mind. Like, can you read that? Using essential oils, Marilyn. Yes. Okay, I want to say something about this. Regardless of the weather, I'll try to go outside. Oh, that's great. I want to give Marilyn, Marilyn, I want you to know that you have the book coming to you. You were the first responder. So the first idea and the first responder, essential oils are a huge part of it. Terpenes and the smell of the what they call the soil in the earth, when that comes up to you, it automatically reduces your blood pressure. People that spend up to 3 days in the woods can almost reverse their blood pressure. Cypress oil is the #1 oil to bring about a sharper, more relaxed state during your work. So you're actually sharper, but you have a more relaxed state. You're not using coffee. Cypress essential oil. There's more research on cypress oil than there is any other oil for biophilic design. When we implement these things, not saying that you have to do it, but as we start with those 2 ladies I showed you, the 2 women who are daring the first recharge rooms in history in long-term care, we are going to evaluate with them their absenteeism. Each team member will have blood pressure, pulse, oxygenation, mood indicators, and work satisfaction studies. And then we'll, some of the equipment that we're going to be using. Again, all of this they already have. This is not anything new. We're going to be in partnership with IN2L. They are giving us the big 75-inch screen TV to project nature scenes on their break room walls. And then where our lead researcher is Dr. Joanne Reinhardt, who's going to study this with us. And then there's a company, his name is Sanjay, he owns Sambas Health. He's giving us all the stuff to measure the biomarkers. And I share that with you because what I'm saying is not only are we passionate, like crazily passionate about bringing nature in, we're also planning to show the value of it, not just talk about. I mean, actually, one of the founders said, "Why are you researching again? This has been researched since the 1960s. Why do you feel you have research?" The issue is in our field, it is the most understudied in terms of the workforce. And what I'm trying to do is balance out in partnership with these folks and really go after the #1 problem commented by providers in McKnight's as helping the workforce both with retention, satisfaction, and as I said earlier, prior studies show very clearly recharge rooms in their work environments, 10% less absenteeism. That's a big number money-wise when you add up the number. I'm going to stop talking because I know we're right on approach. When you see this, I've shared all of the research. There's 2 pages of research here. And then I want to say that I'm extremely grateful. I go fast at this. I hope you caught the message that this is a both and for both the residents and the team and your families. And as you head into the holidays, Thanksgiving, think about how you can bring more nature in. There's so many ways that you can improve the health of your family and the residents with little things. Gratitude is one of the very best things we can do, being grateful. So I'm grateful for you. Next Tuesday is not next Tuesday, a couple of Tuesdays, I think it is November 30th. I want everyone to spread the word, is Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday, it's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, after Thanksgiving. It's like pre-Black Friday stuff, but it's a national movement. Giving Tuesday, November 30th. As you are out and about on your workday, think about Pioneer Network on Giving Tuesday. If you or anyone you know, send them Joan's way. So as much as I'm grateful for your time, I want to give back to Pioneer Network. So be thinking about them on Giving Tuesday, which is November 30th. Thank you, everybody.
Well, Tammy, that has been wonderful. And thank you so much for sharing that. That we really, truly do appreciate the support that you give us and so many others give us. But we do have a little bit of time if there is anybody who has a question out there. Tammy is such a wealth of knowledge. So this is our chance. So let me give you just I'll do a little bit of my closing and then we'll we'll look and see if we have any questions in the boxes. We're doing that. Just so you know, I'm so pleased that Tammy will be getting a book to somebody, and I know the rest of us are a little jealous, but that's okay. We're happy. And then immediately after the webinar, when you close your browser, a survey is going to come up, and we sure do appreciate you taking just a couple minutes to let us know your thoughts on today's webinar. And then about 24 hours, you'll be receiving an email with a link to access the webinar recording and a certificate of attendance. You'll also find a link to the survey again, just in case you missed it, or if technology should happen to fail us, which has been known to happen. We do have a question before I say any more. So let's ask this. Tammy asked a question: how can we all help to educate long-term care communities about the importance of residents being outdoors every day? What a great question.
So it is a full-time job for everyone. So I don't know how scary the 93% was to you, but it was very scary to me. And it literally is just going to take all of us to think about our own lived experience. When I do my trainings, I say to myself, would you sign up to go live anywhere where you may get out only 2 times a year to go to Walmart or Target? Would anybody sign up for that? No, nobody will sign up for, I want to move in an environment where potentially I get out to go 2 times a year to Walmart or Target. And I'm not saying this against any engagement calendar or anything along those lines. I'm just quoting the evidence. There are those that get out more. This is the average. And I would say that any space you're in, this goes back to put your money where your mouth is, right? Any place that you're in, work environment that you have, or if you're in charge of a work environment, the most simple, least expensive thing to do is to help residents get outside. Whether you have your meals outside, if you're on this call and you are able to do that, I know for the most in North America, we're moving into colder months, but how can you have your meals outside? I don't know why we must always be in the dining room. I never understood that. If you have huge, beautiful courtyards, we do across many of these places, and very often it's only once a month or once a summer on the 4th of July that we actually go out and sit in these. So there's so many ways we can do it. We can keep and bring in a series of how to rewire and rewild long-term care. And then you can look and stay tuned for the research that's going to come out from the project that we're doing. And anytime you can contact me or Joan. My website is biophiliapharma.com, or contact someone at Pioneer Network. We have an assessment that we do to kind of help people gauge ways in which they're currently succeeding at biophilic design, and then ways to help them do it. And again, I hope everyone hears this. You can do this at zero to no cost, like zero to, if you wanted to buy essential oils, you could, but you don't have to. You can go out, ask the tree if it'll, and I, ask the tree, I say, because I think it's important that we get permission to ever chop something down. But if you can't buy essential oils, go out and find a pine tree or two and some pine cones, clip them off, put them near you. You're going to have the same effect as the oil. It's just that easy.
What a great time of the year for that. I mean, go to the local tree farm and ask them for some of the clippings from that are going to just get thrown away or burnt there on the spot, and share them.
I shared this book before too. I always share this book because it's passionate into my heart. But if you are a parent, grandmother, grandfather, aunt, uncle of young children, I think this book is also awesome. It's called Last Child in the Woods. And now more than ever, like I said, school systems have even shut down the playtime outside. And we all know that there is an enormous amount of time that children, even at newborns, are spending on their televisions and cell phones and laptops. And now that school is virtual, often, I mean, many environments are still virtual, so that's more screen time. I beg you to read this book and to use some of these principles for your children, because again, when I talk about sensory anesthesia, we are wearing down skills that we have because we do not put ourselves in environments that are natural to us, like wind on our face, sunshine on our face, smells of the woods. The list goes on, birdsong. Both sides of the spectrum, the young and the old. We all need nature.
Absolutely. And Tammy, I'm going to make an assumption here that if you will send me a list of the different books that you've talked about.
Oh, absolutely.
Today, I will make sure that bibliography is included with what you will get tomorrow when you get the copy of the webinar. So everybody will have that, because great resources. Some great reading, and I know everyone has lots of spare time.
You share one last tip. So there's lots of ways to bring nature in and around you, and it's time for many of us. I know for myself, it's time to pull back our gardens and get ready for harvesting for the winter. As you cut back your gardens, consider picking your favorite plant, flower, whatever it is. Take a few petals, soak it in the water overnight, let it really get infused. You can then either put that water in your bathtub, or you can put it in little tincture bottles. I chopped back all my plants. I put a little honey in. I get my plant oil, and I take it in so that I have literally nature inside. And I do that through the winter to just remembering and recognizing that all things, including plants, are part of our healing environment. Every pill that even the nursing, have residents around average of 15 pills, 9 to 15 pills. Most of those pills scratch way back are some form of a plant that has been synthesized to become a medicine. As you know from Hippocrates, plants are poison in just one dose away from being a poison. Why I say that is, you have your environment around you that can help you through the winter. Just soak your plants, put a little honey in, and take it through. They'll love it, and you'll love it.
And we did have another question. Tammy Penny asked, what's your favorite place to order essential oils from?
Doterra. Yeah, I order from Doterra, and I used to like Young Living. I still do, but Doterra has the research around it. So I'm a research nut, and so I love having evidence. Like for instance, we didn't need to study the recharge room, but Doterra, D-O, small D-O, big T-E-R-R-A. I'll put it right in here.
There we go.
I believe they're out of Utah, and it's a family, started out as a family owned, and it's huge worldwide now, but they are biodynamic oils. So why that's important is you can ingest their oils. Many of their oils are ingestible. Some other oils that say organic or natural, beware, their oil is biodynamic. So it's passed rigorous studies. And, in the environment that we live in with health departments and surveys and state, I had to choose oils that I trusted on the residents or trusted near the residents. And so I did my homework a long time ago, and, have no problem giving residents Doterra oils, ingestible or just through the air.
Thank you. That was very helpful. And you did have another comment, Tammy, from Marilyn. She said one of her favorite things to do is add chopped fresh herbs from the garden to food. And in Oregon, she can do it all year long.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. Aren't you lucky? And if you have anything close to what she's suggesting, please bring it in for the residents. Again, residents are experiencing less and less and less of use of their sensory abilities. And so if we don't use it, we know we lose it. So please remember your residents when you're chopping, bringing things in. And it only takes one time and you'll hear them say, oh my gosh, I remember the smell of this. And it's all the memories come back.
Tammy, I was recently at a community in Georgia, AG Roads, and they have a full-time horticulturist
Oh, I love it.
on staff. And how phenomenal is that? Now, I have to say, being a former music therapist, they also have a full-time music therapist. But what a great combination, music and plants.
Yes, that's right. And as the leaves are falling, remember them too. Bring them in and do, because this is a recharge experience. Just bringing in. I haven't done it yet, but I have a little 6-year-old neighbor and an 86-year-old neighbor. And Saturday we're getting together and we're taking the leaves that have fallen and just playing with them, making whatever the girls, I call them girls, that's my neighbor, they're girls, whatever they want to make. But there it is. And nothing more fun to just use what nature gives you, bring it inside.
How wonderful. And what a great idea to kind of, as we begin to bring this to a close. And Tammy, if I could have you pop that slide back up with the Listen, Learn, Explore. I just want to thank Tammy, and I'll thank you again. But I also, as we look at 2021 coming to a close, we do have a few exciting educational offerings yet to come. One of them is our Listen, Learn, Explore podcast. So I've listed on here the last 3 of our podcasts. We've had some great podcasts, and I will tell you, I should have listed another one because Tammy did a great podcast for us as well. And so if you want to learn more from Tammy, if you want to share what she has to say, you can share the video you're going to get tomorrow. You can also share the link to the podcast, and you can find that on our on Pioneer Network's website. If you just go to our events page, click on the Listen, Learn, Explore, and you'll see the whole menu of the obviously 19 podcasts that we have done in 2021. So we hope you enjoy those.
Wow.
Yeah. And we also know as providers that you are burning the candle at both ends, and the time is the most precious of commodities that you have. So we also know that spending time on you is something that, as Tammy has explored today, is something that truly you need to think about doing, because if you don't take care of and recharge our own batteries, your own batteries, how can we help others? So Tammy, if you pop to the next slide, it's with that in mind that I ask you to join us on December 8th. For the 4th of Pioneer Network's 2021 Symposia, Envision the Future, More to Do in 2022. We're going to have 4 dynamic sessions. You'll hear about innovative ways that resident voices are being heard. You're going to hear from a team of Christian living communities who have built and continue to grow a leadership team for the future. You're going to have an opportunity to look at some innovative technologies that can help us in the future, that support engagement and independence and even make life work better for caregivers. And then Dr. Bill Thomas is going to join us to present some visionary ideas of what we can do to shape the future of aging, care, and services, ideas around architecture and culture and connections, and things to get us inspired as we move into 2022. And with all the things that have happened around us, I think we all need that inspiration. We all need that network and that connection with others who share the passion that is what has always been the thing that I have most enjoyed about being with those people that are part of Pioneer Network. It's the vision and the passion that you have, and we fire each other up, and that's such a great thing to do. And the last person who's going to fire us up that day is Penny Cook, who is with us today, our president and CEO. She's going to lead a final discussion on bringing the vision together with all of our speakers from the day, as well as some of the speakers from prior symposiums. And then the one last slide I'll share with you is that as we bring 2021 to a close, we're looking ahead to 2022, just as we talked about in the symposium. We're going to be back live again. So save the dates of July 24th to 27th. We're going to be back in Denver, Colorado. We're taking some time to reimagine what that conference is going to look like, because as we all know, with what we've been through, as we look forward, we know things are going to change and we need to change with them. So we're very excited about some great ideas that we have been working with to really reimagine what the conference can be. And we hope that you'll be able to join us then. And so that's kind of the end of today. Again, I just want to thank Tammy so very much. This has been wonderful. I think for for the caregivers that are out there that need to care for themselves, for the residents who you've talked about, who sadly have lost so much of this in the current settings. We can do more, we can do better. And I think the passion of this group of people is just who we need to get things going.
Yes.
So, Tammy?
Very grateful. Yeah, very good. Remember to use the one slide, I won't go back, but you'll get this deck that shows how to get the bang for the buck, a good way that you can post in anywhere or for yourselves, the dosing of the maximum benefit time in nature. Again, you can bring nature inside, but Florence Williams has a pyramid, just like the food pyramid, to get the best out of spending time in nature. So post that anywhere you can.
Well, thank you, Tammy. Thank you for all your resources, and watch for your emails tomorrow, and you will have those to share. And we in the words of one of our founders, one of our early pioneers, Barbara Frank, share shamelessly all these wonderful things that you have learned today from Tammy. Have a wonderful day and take care.
Thank you, everybody.